Are we live? Yes, we're live. Good morning. We're Facebook Live with BodyWise. I'm happy you've joined me today. I just wanted to let you know I'm recording from a different location. I'm in the beautiful North Carolina, Mooresville to be exact. And thanks so much for joining me, West Coasters. East Coasters, welcome. Last week we talked about mind over matter. Specifically, a man named Dennis Rogers, who is considered the strongest man in the world and ignores the sensation of pain and is afraid of dentists, interestingly enough. With regard to my own painful experience, I noticed that before I had pain, I had some thoughts in my mind that seemed to have correlated and caused the back pain that I experienced. So what makes Dennis Rogers, who's able to ignore pain, different from me, who is having trouble recently ignoring pain? That's coming up today in our discussion about what is our discussion about? Sorry, I just lost my mind. Emotion is a bad word. So last week we talked about pain being an emotion, and this week, emotion is a bad word is our theme. So before we discuss that, I would like to shout out to a few people. Sunday Tollefson, thank you so much for calling. It was great to connect with you, and I look forward to talking with you on Tuesday. Also, I would like to shout out to Shirley Hurd, my mother, who has survived 3 years. My dad passed and transitioned to his next life, his next existence, 3 years ago yesterday. So, Shirley Hurd, great job. Thanks so much for sticking around with us, and I appreciate the church supporting you and giving you things to do to continue living your life worth living. Another shout out to my husband, who's holding down the fort at home in Bothell, Washington. And lastly, a shout out to April Koich, who remembers that life is a simplified form of fencing. Today's recording, emotion is a bad word, can make you wonder. And the emotion we're talking about is, for example, the kind of emotion that you would think about when you say you are so emotional. Emotion, in this case, is referencing feelings. I believe that in our society, the word feeling and the word emotions are interchangeable, and that's not actually correct. We live with two foundational emotions that all feelings arise from. One of those emotions is love, and if you know the other one, please post it in the comments below, and I'll let you know later. So with emotions and feelings being interchangeable, I think there's a lot of confusion about really where emotions arise from and where feelings arise from. This goes back to our subject being emotion is a bad word. Research has shown that positive feelings minimizes our experience of pain. So research is finding this, but it's something that we've known since childhood. Why? Because when we're experiencing pain, what did our mother do? Our mother ran over, she kissed our knee, right? So our mother gave us positive feelings when we injured ourselves. So we've known what researchers are just figuring out. Contrary-wise, negative feelings, or as researchers call them, negative emotions, increases our perception of pain. We know this is true because interrogators know that's true. Think Spanish Inquisition. So if you think about positive emotions, positive feelings in this case, and negative feelings, they are very powerful in determining how we perceive the pain in our lives. So this goes back to the pain I experienced just a week ago. I had tweaked my back, and just prior to having that back pain, I had some thoughts that were negative, that brought up negative feelings in myself, and then whoop, my back tweaked. Amazing correlation there. Brown University studied how the brain regulates pain. This is very interesting. These are all studies. You can do a search on the internet yourself. So what you need to know is the brain regulates pain using low frequency brain waves. So lower frequency brain waves blocks our sensory input. Sensory input meaning the feelings that we feel from our body, say from our hand, from our foot, from our skin, from our joints. So that's sensory input, input from our physical body. What's also interesting is that researchers found not only does it block sensory input, but there's an increase in low frequency brain waves in the same place where we ignore distractions. So there's an increase in our ability to ignore distractions as well. So the sensory part of our body and the frontal cortex, which is the thinking part of our body, actually synchronizes and coordinates together to filter stimuli, thereby decreasing pain. Wow, fascinating. Low frequency brain waves. So the low frequency brain waves I'm talking about in particular are considered alpha brain waves. Alpha brain waves are the brain waves that you experience when you're at ease, and it's easiest to experience them when you're doing something that's habitual. For example, if you drive a certain route to work every morning and every evening, that becomes habitual, and you can find yourself thinking other thoughts during that activity. So that's when your alpha waves have taken over most of your brain activity. And during that state, you're very creative and you get lots of brilliant thoughts during that period of time. That's considered a more positive mental state. Now, please share with me when you find yourself in activities that are repetitive that you can be distracted and think other thoughts about. I use the example of driving. Please tell me, share with me in the comments the kinds of things that you do on a repetitive basis that actually shift your brain waves and allow you to think more creatively. For some people, it may be brushing their teeth at night. But I would like to hear from you. What times of day, what things are you doing that allows your brain to relax and be more creative and to be in a more positive state? So, when you tell me, when you give me feedback on the times and the things that you're doing when you find yourself in a more creative mind state, I will gather that information and collect it, and we'll talk about that next week. Also next week, we'll talk about how you can lower your brain waves to alpha waves, and I'll give you more tips and tricks on how to do that, because that will directly affect, one, your positive feelings, and two, your susceptibility to experiencing painful stimulus. So, I want to share this with you too. I have a tagline which is move your body, free your mind, elevate your spirit. And that is a hint regarding the subject that we'll discuss next week, which is ways you can lower your brainwaves to the alpha state. So that's a wrap up. That is how emotion, which is negative emotion, is a bad word, bad for your brain and bad for your pain. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you joining me while I'm in North Carolina. We'll be back on Tuesday to discuss more things you can do with your water. And for now, think head-wise, feel heart-wise, and move body-wise. No music, so I'm going to have to make music. Bum, 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 ba-da-dum, bum, ba-da-bum, bum. Ciao. See you next week.